Man, coaches love timetables and timelines, don't they, Gary? We spent a lot of time on this yesterday and how different coaches, whether it's Matt Nagy or now Sean Payton or Vic Fangio out in Denver or Kyle Shanahan, are handling this quarterback competition question because we're all just waiting to hear them say, here's the guy. So do you see this playing out in Jameis's favor whenever the timetable finally comes to an end?
I do. At this point, I'd be shocked if Jameis Winston isn't the week one starter in New Orleans. He was terrific last night. 9 of 10 in the air, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked great. Now, granted, it all happened against the Jaguars, so take it for what it's worth. But it's still encouraging and evidence that Jameis should be the week one starter in New Orleans. And then we'll see if he can throw the ball to his team instead of the other team once the regular season begins. That's always been his problem. In his last season as a starter in Tampa Bay, threw 30 interceptions. That was 9 more than anybody else. You can't do that and win anywhere. But there were 0 interceptions last night, so that's a good sign. And either way, this should be an easy call for Sean Payton whenever he actually decides to make the call. Jameis Winston's going to be the starting quarterback in New Orleans.
I agree with you. I'm not sure it's an easy call for Sean Payton, though, because he spent a lot of time over the last few years really trumpeting what Taysom Hill can bring as a full-time starting quarterback. That comparison to Steve Young has been used ad nauseum at this point. But Jameis Winston, I think, would give this team the best chance to win. And you have to factor in, too, you make Taysom Hill your starter, you take him out of all the other valuable things he does. So, Gary, up and down night for Lawrence, and I think expectations probably a bit outsized just based off of how often he's been spectacular over the course of his college career, and that set, again, maybe unrealistic expectations when you think of all the pieces around him or what he doesn't have around him. But as you view Lawrence, what do you think is realistic in terms of what he can do in year one in the league?
Well, you're right. This is all about expectations because in a vacuum, he hasn't been awful. But relative to expectations, he hasn't been great. In fact, you could argue he hasn't been as impressive as Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, or even Justin Fields. But in fairness, that likely has more to do with what he's working with than anything else. Jacksonville is not good. And the Jaguars have played 2 preseason games now and scored a total of just 3 points in the first 3 quarters. That's not entirely Trevor Lawrence's fault. But it does suggest that his rookie season is probably going to have more downs than ups. He has a bright future, but the future feels a pretty good ways off right now.
Yeah, you could argue that maybe Zach Wilson, the only other of this rookie quarterback class that has the worst weapons or pieces around him as an offense. And then it's a brand new staff there in Jacksonville led by Urban Meyer, who's making that transition from the college game to the pro game. And I think that adds to that term expectations and spotlight that will be on Trevor Lawrence. He seems poised to handle it, but I think it's going to be a bit bumpy out of the gate for this organization and for Lawrence. And it only got more challenging after last night's game because Travis Etienne, who was the fellow Clemson Tiger and first rounder, the running back, really dynamic player that the Jags selected there in round 1, suffered a Liz Frank injury. So it's a foot injury that's going to have him on the sideline for the entire season after surgery. What does this do, Gary, you think, to, as we mentioned it, the timeline, the timetable, or the expectations around Lawrence in this offense?
It's just a deflating development and a reminder of why stars are very limited in the preseason. This is a coach's worst nightmare. I mean, Etienne was the ACC's all-time leading rusher. He's the 25th pick in this year's NFL draft. Urban Meyer was on record saying he was going to use him in a variety of ways. Yeah, hand it to him, but also throw it to him. And now it's a weapon that Trevor Lawrence won't have as a rookie. Etienne still, projects as an impactful player in the NFL. You don't spend a first-round pick on him if you don't think of him that way. But now we know, barring a surprise, we're not going to get to see him in a regular season game with Jacksonville until 2022.
Back in the NFL, Commissioner Roger Goodell was in Buffalo yesterday and supported the idea of a new stadium in Buffalo. And that comes often when the organization is winning games. And they did a lot of that last year. And there's a ton of energy around this team heading into 2021. They basically bring everybody back and a couple pieces that even make them better. In your mind, are they a legit Super Bowl contender?
Of course, Buffalo is a real Super Bowl contender. In fact, I think they're the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC. I know some people might go with Baltimore there. Reasonable minds can disagree, but I would put the Bills second in the AFC, and that by definition makes you a Super Bowl contender. And if they can somehow get that AFC Championship game in Buffalo, that could tip the scales in their favor, be a real difference maker.
Say a lot of smart things there, Gary, and I think that home field aspect is as big as anything right now for Buffalo. Something Josh Allen told us when we spoke to him a couple weeks ago here on the tour here on Time to Shine. Just having that fan base, a full stadium behind them, based off of what they had to deal with on the road in Kansas City. And it's realistic because the AFC East, not as strong as it once was. We don't know what New England's going to look like. Not sure about Miami. I think New York pretty much safely will say is in the basement of this thing. And the AFC West is going to be a challenge for KC. So there's a roadmap for Buffalo to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And that would go a long way in reaching the Super Bowl. And then from there, who knows what happens. Bill Belichick not wanting to talk about the absence of Cam Newton and what it means for Mac Jones, but there's the reality. As you could hear there, as those tried to ask questions, it does give him more opportunity. We talked a lot about the Cam Newton side of things yesterday with his absence and why he's absent, but the flip side is Mac Jones gets 3 or 4 days here with the ones as he tries to maybe grab this starting role from Cam Newton.
Yeah, he's getting all of the first-team snaps right now while Cam Newton sits at home. But Cam did this to himself, and now Mac Jones has an opportunity to capitalize and perhaps become QB1. And the fact that Bill Belichick is acknowledging publicly that this is indeed a big opportunity for Mac Jones, I think that speaks volumes.
Big news out of the college ranks. We have an alliance, and I'm not talking Survivor on CBS or Paramount Plus. ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 have formed an alliance that will focus on common values and support of one another. Sounds very nice. Gary, help me understand what this is and what it means for college sports as a whole.
Well, that's a question everybody is asking today, Evan, and more than anything, it looks like an attempt to ensure the SEC doesn't take college athletics wherever it wants college athletics to go without any obstructions. Basically, the Big Ten, Pac-12, and ACC are saying, hey, if we stick together, we can dictate how the college football playoff expands, when it expands, and what television partners are involved. But it should be noted, there are no contracts signed here. So this is an alliance tied to a gentleman's agreement. Anybody can break from it whenever they want, however they want. So bottom line, Evan, I'm not sure how much of a big deal this is or how much it'll impact the way we watch college athletics. I'm happy to let it play out and see. But in the meantime, if it leads to us getting some interesting Clemson, USC, or Ohio State, Florida State football matchups, I'll sit down and watch them like everybody else.
NBA season, can you believe it? It's 9 weeks away. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What team has the best big three as you see it?
Man, it's close. And I could talk myself into the Lakers or the Nets, but I think I would lean slightly towards Brooklyn when it comes to who's got the best big three in the NBA. And I'd lean that direction for two reasons. One, Brooklyn's big three is a little bit younger. And two, Brooklyn's big three, they can really shoot it. Kevin Durant shot 45% from three last season. Kyrie was at 40.2%. James Harden at 36.6%. All three of them shoot it better from the three-point line than LeBron James, Anthony Davis, or Russell Westbrook. So I'd lean toward Brooklyn having the better big three, but again, it's close. And obviously a Lakers-Nets NBA Finals with everybody healthy, that would be amazing and a basketball fan's dream.
Yeah, that'd be my only note, Gary. You mentioned healthy. Those three have all failed to be healthy consistently together. That was a big aspect of last year and why they didn't make that run. When healthy, no doubt. LA, those guys have been a bit more durable over the course of their career. New York Yankees are red hot right now, Gary. They've won 10 straight. Are they a real World Series threat at this point?
They're a threat, sure, but they're still probably, in the American League behind the Rays and the Astros, and I'm not sure they can match the Dodgers' rotation in a possible World Series matchup, although in fairness, nobody can. But listen, the fact that we're even having this conversation is amazing. At the trade deadline, some suggested the Yankees should be sellers, but they decided to instead be buyers, and the result of that, is this 10-game winning streak. Now, it should be noted that Andrew Heaney and his 5.51 ERA is pitching for the Yankees tonight. That's a good way to snap a winning streak. But the worst case scenario for the Yanks is that they go to bed tonight 10-1 in their past 11 games. So undeniably, things are going well in the Bronx.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.